Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. Please support this podcast by going to the Patreon page, which is in the video description. And also, help support the other people that are on there that are in the video description. Support them the best way possible. So today we have Lance Hillsinger. He was a child welfare social worker for 34 years. And he became one in an unconventional, teachable moment that he shared on other podcasts. He's retired now and has finished his memoir, In Place of the Parent, Inside Child Protective Services. So, Lance, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so explain to those who is Lance Hillsinger.
Well, as you introduced me, I was a child welfare social worker for 34 years. Mm-hmm. I earned a bachelor degree in psychology and political science from UCLA. I'd been a lifetime Californian. I had a choice to go between USC or Vanderbilt for graduate school. I thought, I want to get out of the state. I want to see part of the country. So I went to Vanderbilt, was on a PhD program there to do academic research in psychology. And I just kind of realized there was kind of a mutual meeting of the minds with my academic advisors that was not a path for me. So I got a master's, came back to California, lived with my parents, returned home. That was was looking for work. Eventually found a job working with dual diagnosis, young adults, people who were diagnosed with developmental disabilities and a mental health disorder. And this was in the pre-internet days. I worked with I was like the senior partner, and then I had a junior partner who was paid just barely above minimum wage. So there was a lot of turnover in that position. Always having a new person. And one time I got a new person if I said red, she said green. Just one of those people you run across in life that you just don't click with at all. Mm-hmm. And one day she said, why don't we try to get Dale a job working in the county cafeteria? And I was about to say, that's a really bad idea. But then I realized I caught myself. She actually said something that was very helpful. And it was a teachable moment for me to always keep listening, because even if you think you someone just doesn't get you right, you just don't click. I had to cut myself off and say, that's a very good idea. So we went down to the Hall of Administration in LA County. They have a huge book of all the job applications, everything from arborist to zoologist. Mm-hmm. By good fortune, child social worker, child services worker was called then, came before dishwasher. Mm-hmm. I thought, hey, this is a job for myself, and I applied. And so I was a social worker with LA County for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then my parents were retiring up to San Luis Obispo County. And for those of you who don't know, San Luis Obispo County is the county just north of Santa Barbara. And my wife and I were on a lark going up to want to see where my parents are going to retire to. Hey, I look in, checking a job, and I find they're advertising jobs. And it says social worker 4. And I thought they meant 4 people, because in LA County, the classification only went up to 3. But that was social worker 4 positions. And in government, the higher the number, the better. Mm-hmm. And so I applied and fortunately got the job and was there for 29 years. And I did mostly court work, both in LA County and here. And I was for most of my career, I was what they call a court worker. So I handled cases from the initial detention hearing and to the dispositional hearing, where either the case is dismissed, which is rare, or the child's declared a dependent and is allowed to remain with a parent, or remains in foster care.
Okay. All right. So you spent 9 years in Los Angeles, and then you did 25 in the Santa Barbara area. So now explain your memoir, In Place of the Parent.
Well, I started writing when I was with LA County. I was there with 5 years and 29 with San Luis Obispo County.
Yeah.
The child welfare system was going through a lot of changes at the time. And my caseload when I left LA County was 77 children, which is incredibly high caseload. You're supposed to see every child once a month with some exceptions. And it was just very, very frustrating. The system just wasn't doing a very good job. And so partly I said, I want to make the system better because work is demanding. I became a parent. I had other things. I wasn't able to finish the job until I retired, which is a good thing because the system had improved. In many ways, it also went backwards in a few ways. Mm-hmm. But that was my purpose in writing the book, was to make educate people about the child welfare system, because we're confidential. So there's a lot of rumors about CPS is just out for the money or something like that. And so I wanted to dispel some of that. I want to encourage people to become foster parents. Mm-hmm. A lot of people talk about, improving the system. The one thing that would improve the system best is if we had more foster homes. Mm-hmm. Would make it more efficient. If you have to drive 50 miles, 50 minutes to a foster home and 50 minutes back, that's a lot of time. If the foster home is only 10 minutes away, that's a lot better. If you have more foster homes, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If people are not interested in becoming foster parents, they can become a CASA worker, CASA volunteers. They're now available in every state. This is a person who provides a child-centered report to the court, meets with the child periodically, more often than the social worker possibly could because of the high caseload. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do that. I wanted to make some changes. One of the things, just a minor thing here, is that social workers, if you have Native American history, there's special laws that apply. Mm-hmm. And you have to take what is called active efforts to place the child in an Indian home. Mm-hmm. And vast majority of times, even if somebody claims they have some American Indian heritage, they don't. Or they don't have sufficient amount. And we spend an awful lot of time, social worker time, dealing with the American Indian Child Welfare Act, time that could be better spent. I had 2 cases in my entire career where a child was eligible, and in both cases, we did the same thing that the people from the tribe wanted to do. So that's one of my beef, is that I think that Indian Child Welfare Act is too dated. And there's other changes I want to make. And then because of the people who come into the system, about 90% roughly of the children, their parents are poor enough to qualify for court-appointed attorneys. Mm-hmm. In California, in most states, the parents are appointed attorneys. And one thing I want to change is there are a few states where parents have to represent themselves. So you get arrested on a DUI with a child in the car. It's a very serious offense. Child welfare will likely get involved. You also have a criminal case. In the criminal case, if you're poor, you get an attorney. You have your kids taken away. In the civil case, in some states, and then again, it's just a few, you don't get an attorney. You have to represent yourself. And I think, going to jail is bad, but having your kids taken away is even worse. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things. So I've done some things where I want the system to be better.
Okay. So. All right. And you wrote 3 other books. So can you explain a little bit about those 3 other books?
Well, as I said, that's what was leading to, is that there's poverty and child welfare are linked. They're more often in those cases. And just to be clear, roughly about 2/3 of our cases come from neglect due to substance abuse. And again, most of the people are poor that have that. So I'm going to do something about poverty. So I wrote a book, Build a Better Bridge, Social Policy for the 21st Century. Mm-hmm. I took a look at programs from the War on Poverty, food stamps, school lunch programs, welfare, which is now TANF, and looked at those programs and says, how have they done good? And they have in somewhat many ways. Could they be better? Yes. And then and also what can we do larger system? Government can't do everything to alleviate poverty. Is there chance things that we could do to help people get into housing? Housing is one of the biggest concerns these days. We could build a lot of public housing, but that doesn't really solve the problem, especially doesn't solve for middle class people. Maybe we need to give corporations tax breaks and say, hey, if you provide housing to your employee, you get a tax break.
Mm-hmm.
We had a thing here locally. There was a little controversy. The superintendent of schools retired, hiring a new superintendent. The part of his pay package was to the school district was going to help with his mortgage. And I thought that's fine and good if that was also available for teachers and law enforcement officers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But just to let one person, the person at the top, get a specialty, I thought that was a little wrong. So that's one of the things I advocate in the book, is some ways to also increase the supply of housing, increase the supply of childcare by giving tax breaks, making general rules and food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Food stamps are the same whether you're a family of two, a mother with a teenage boy, or two elderly people. Well, two elderly people and a teenage boy, one teenage boy eats as much as two elderly people. And so maybe we should have food stamps have an age adjustment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I talk about in that book, things that I want to do differently at both the state and federal level to alleviate poverty. The third book is just a fun book. It's a Beyond Amelia, Lesser Known Women of Yesteryear. And it was inspired by a trip my wife and I took to the History of Diving Museum in Key West. So if I could give them a plug, if you're ever in the Key West area, go to the diving museum. It's very, very interesting. There they have the first movie shot primarily underwater, back like in 1917, 18, before women could vote. And it's a laughable film as far as entertainment, but technically it's very impressive. And so I wrote a book about the women because it was a husband and wife team that did the underwater photography, and that was very unusual for women back then. To be honest, I also hope women buy more books than men. One of the things I've learned as an author is that 80% of fiction books, and fiction sells much better than nonfiction, 80% are bought by women. So I was hoping also to buy a book that would help people be interested in my other books as well. Oh, and just to go back briefly to In Place of the Parent, all the royalties for that book go directly to Razom, a humanitarian program working in Ukraine. So my publisher tells me how much royalties, and then she just sends it directly to Razom.
Okay. And then you have one more book, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, a court investigators examine the Gospels. Can you explain that book?
Yeah, I've always been a person of faith, but I'm not an evangelistic kind of person. I'm not, you wouldn't consider me, just if you knew me, you don't know that I'm particularly religious, but I do think that faith helped me be a better social worker. There were times when I was going to a difficult home visit. I would park a few blocks away and maybe say a little prayer, or more likely just meditate. And I think that we need to, and so very few of the families I work with had any connection to any organized religion. So taking that fact and the fact that faith has been important in my life, even though I'm not a go to church every kind of day kind of person, or every Sunday kind of person, I wrote a book because I think that we're in a high-tech world, and some of the stories of the Bible just don't quite mesh with our belief in a high-tech world. And it's kind of hard to believe in the miracles and things like that. And I kind of explained how some of the miracles could be common sensely explained. The story of Jesus feeding the multitude with a little bit of bread and fish. Well, that can be, if you go to a movie, haven't you ever gone to a movie and then had an intense experience, realize at the end of the movie, half your popcorn's still there? An intense experience can satiate you and make you think. So that's very, very plausible that actually happened, that there wasn't much food, but everybody came away satisfied, satiated. And I go a little bit about the birth story of Jesus, how Jesus may very well have been born in a manger outside. So I talk about that, but I look at it from the viewpoint, not as a doubter or a person who's personally a zealot. I look at it as a court investigator, as I would, what did people say? What could they have meant? What is the context? That kind of thing. And so I hope by bringing that book that people who are turned off for religion for whatever reason, maybe they'll look at that and say, hey, maybe there is something to this, to having faith in one's life.
Okay. All right. So where can people get these books?
All of them are available. The easiest thing is to go on Amazon, click in my name, Lance Hillsinger, type in my name and search. And all my books will pop up except for Beyond Amelia. For marketing reasons, I put that under LB Hillsinger. So,
okay.
And there are also a little bit of description on my website, lancehillsinger.net.
Okay. One moment. Bear with me one moment. There we go. All right, so you can go to Amazon for the books, and you can also go to lancehillsinger.net, where you will find more details about the books that he wrote, and even more details about him personally. So what's next for Lance?
Well, that's a very good question. I've been trying to I don't think I have another book in me. I'm not sure what that I haven't go that way again. It's kind of lonely writing a book, and I realize in my years, I'm 67, that maybe I need some socialization. Work, you socialize with people, you see people. When you retire, all of a sudden you don't have that. So I've took up pickleball. I'm also involved with the Masons. And I say this because writing is a hobby. We're not supposed to use masonry to promote a business, but since writing is more of a hobby to me, I feel like I'm okay. And I enjoy that. And I think that's one of the points that in the podcast I've made, is that men, the suicide rate for men is higher than women, regardless of age groups. And it really spikes in the over 60 group. And I think that men are more isolated. And the decline in fraternal organizations like the Masons, the Elks, and so on, that has declined. And I think that that's part of that. I think it's good for men's mental health to participate in a group like that. Also, church attendance has dropped off. And that, again, that was a place where people could socialize and feel part of something. And so loneliness and the depression that goes with that is very easy. And so it's something that we need to, kind of thing that I'm preaching about, if I could use that term, is that to socialize more and to be with groups, because we are, human beings are social animals, and we need to be around people.
Okay. And one final question I have for you is, if anybody watching this becomes interested and want to be a child social worker, what's the best advice you can give them?
Well, I appeared on a local radio show, and the host asked me basically that same question. And I said, because at the book, I say some things that are not great about child welfare, some challenges that are in the system. And he asked me that, and I said, you should go in with open eyes. And I think that's a lot of people didn't do that when they went into child welfare. They thought they would be working with kids. Well, you work with kids, yes. You also work with parents who are drug addicts. You work with the court system. You work with other people in other bureaucracies, and so that's really more part of the job. More and more in states, in most of the country, child welfare is administered at the state level. California being so large, it's the county level. Whether it is, they are more and more often requiring that people have a master's in social work. There is a way through Title IX-E that you could have help that financing, but I understand that Trump just changed that no longer social work is considered a profession. And so this thing that was available to help people finance that, because you go to school, you go to get an MBA, you're probably going to make good money. So if you have $50,000 in student loans after getting an MBA, you're probably paying a lot off faster than if you're a social worker. And so there was some, but we need social workers in this world. And so the government recognized that, but Trump has changed that. I hope that will change back. It's also nursing was another thing where you're not allowed to get student loans for nursing as easily. So I think that looks at that. It's a very rewarding job. It was, as I tell people, my uncle was a corporate lawyer, made good money, but I don't think he had enjoyed life as much or enjoyed working with people as much as I did. I felt like I made a little change in the society. A few people. San Luis Obispo is a small enough county. I've actually run into clients that I've worked with, and usually that's very satisfying. Yeah. So, it's like they say about park rangers, you get paid in sunsets.
Yeah.
So it's a rewarding job, but has its challenges. But you could do that. One of the things that I do caution people about is the after hours. In LA County, there was a whole unit that handled after hours. Child welfare is a 24-hour system. People do not beat their kids or do their drugs just between business hours. Friday and Saturday night is very busy for child welfare, but most people don't want that. They want their Friday and Saturday nights for themselves. And in LA County, there was a whole unit that handled those after hours things. In San Luis Obispo County, each social worker had to take so many after hours shifts per year because we were small. And that was very taxing, especially as you got older. And the pay to be on standby pay was $3 an hour. My daughter was in college at the time. She was a standby driver for Uber Eats or one of the companies like that. And her standby pay was $6 an hour to deliver pizzas.
Right.
So I thought that's kind of unfair there.
Right. All right. Well, Lance, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and you're welcome to come back on at any time if you have anything more, that you want to share, or anything new that comes up in reference to maybe another book if it comes out, or something like that. Just reach out, and we'll be happy to bring you on and have you promote the book.
Great.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
All right. You have a good day. Thanks for having me.
Yep.